You've built systems that never failed. You've planned for every risk. But here's a question I ask every engineer who wants to retire early. Have you run a Monte Carlo simulation on your portfolio? 9 times out of 10, I get silence. They show me a fixed return spreadsheet instead. That's like testing software with only the happy path. I retired early after 20 years in tech. Now I help others do the same, without guessing. Let me show you what Monte Carlo really does. Monte Carlo simulation wasn't invented by a financial planner. It was born in the 1940s, in a secret laboratory in Los Alamos, New Mexico. Physicists Stanislaw Ulam and John von Neumann were trying to simulate how neutrons move through material. Too chaotic for simple math. So they did something radical. They ran thousands of random simulations. Each one slightly different. Then they looked at the range of outcomes. That's it. That's Monte Carlo, using randomness to understand uncertainty. Now replace neutrons with your retirement savings. Your portfolio doesn't grow in a straight line. Markets crash. Inflation spikes. You might live longer than expected. A fixed calculator assumes one perfect future. Monte Carlo asks, what if we replay your financial life 10,000 times, each time letting the market randomly rise or fall within realistic bounds? How many of those 10,000 futures leave you with money at age 90? That percentage, that's your probability of success. Here's the problem fixed calculators hide. They assume you'll get the average return every single year. 12% this year, 12% next year, 12% forever. But real markets don't work that way. Some years you're up 20%. Some years you're down 15%. The average might be 12%, but the journey is wildly different. Monte Carlo respects that chaos. Fixed calculators pretend it doesn't exist. And in early retirement, pretending is dangerous. Let me explain with a story. Imagine you're driving from Delhi to Leh, 1000 kilometers of Himalayan roads. A fixed return calculator is like a GPS that assumes the road is perfectly smooth. No landslides, no traffic, no bad weather. It tells you, you'll reach Leh in 20 hours with exactly half a tank left. Comforting, right? But completely unrealistic. Now Monte Carlo is the honest GPS. It says, look, there's a 30% chance of a landslide near Mandi, 25% chance of a 2-hour traffic jam at Manali, 15% chance of snow closing Rohtang Pass. So it runs 1000 virtual trips. Some are smooth, some hit delays, a few break down entirely. The output isn't one arrival time, it's a probability. You have an 82% chance of reaching Leh before your fuel runs out. That's not scary, that's honest. And honesty helps you plan. Now let me show you the most dangerous risk for early retirees. It's called sequence of returns risk. Fancy name, simple idea. Two people can have the exact same average return over 20 years. One ends up rich, one goes broke. Why? Because the order of good years and bad years matters enormously, especially when you're withdrawing money every month. Meet Raj. He retires at 50 with 5 crore rupees. His first 3 years of retirement, the market drops 20%, then 15%, then 10%. He's still withdrawing 1 lakh rupees every month. His portfolio gets crushed early. The next 17 years average 10%, but the damage is done. He runs out of money at age 72. Now meet Meera. Same 5 crore rupees, same 20-year average return. But her first 3 years, 10%, 15%, 20%. She builds a buffer. She dies at 90 with money left. Same math, different order. Fixed calculators miss this. Monte Carlo captures it. Let's run a real Monte Carlo simulation for someone like you. Starting corpus, 5 crore rupees. Monthly expenses, 1 lakh rupees, that's 12 lakh rupees per year. Inflation, 6%. Expected market return, 12%. Volatility, 15%, that's typical for a diversified equity portfolio. Time horizon, 40 years, because if you retire early at 45, you need to plan to 85 or beyond. Let's see what the simulation tells us. Here's what the output looks like. After 10,000 simulations, your probability of success, meaning you never run out of money, is 78%. That's not 100%. But it's not terrible. The median final corpus at age 85 is 8.2 crore rupees. But look at the 10th percentile, the bad luck scenario. That's negative 1.3 crore rupees, meaning you run out of money around age 78. The 90th percentile, 22 crore rupees. Monte Carlo doesn't give one answer. It gives a range and a probability. Your job is to decide, is 78% good enough for your peace of mind? In professional finance, 80 to 85% success is often considered prudent. But for early retirees who can't easily go back to work, I prefer 90% or higher. The beautiful thing is, Monte Carlo lets you ask, what if, for free? What if you reduce expenses to 80,000 rupees per month? What if you work one more year? What if you lower volatility by adding bonds? You can optimize before you leap. That's the power of simulation. Here's what 20 years of architecture taught me: systems that assume everything works perfectly fail spectacularly. Retirement is a system. Monte Carlo doesn't give you certainty. It gives you honesty. And honesty lets you sleep at night. Or it tells you, don't retire yet. Fix the plan. Most people never run this. They use a fixed calculator, see a positive number, and leap. Then a bear market in year 2 destroys them. Don't be that person. So here's my question, and I ask this to every engineer, every product manager, every founder who wants to retire early: have you actually run a Monte Carlo simulation on your real portfolio, with your real expenses, your real withdrawal strategy? Or are you still trusting a single straight line? Because a straight line on paper doesn't fix a landslide in real life. Don't let spreadsheet optimism steal your retirement. The first takeaway is that fixed return calculators are dangerously optimistic for early retirees. They ignore volatility and sequence risk. They assume the best case path. Monte Carlo doesn't predict the future, it maps the range of possible futures. And that range is the only honest answer you'll get. The second takeaway is that probability is not a guarantee, it's a risk gauge. 95% success still means 5% of simulated worlds you fail. You can't eliminate risk, but you can measure it. And measurement changes behavior. It might tell you to build an emergency buffer, or work one more year, or downsize your home. Data before emotion, always. And the third takeaway is that you don't need to be a mathematician. Free and low-cost tools exist. But tools without a philosophy are useless. My philosophy? Retire when your Monte Carlo probability is above 85 to 90% with a margin for error. And then review it every single year. Because your life isn't one simulation, it's an ongoing series of them. Adjust as you go. Look, I'm not selling software. I'm not a robo-advisor. I'm a retired technologist who now helps a small number of early retirees stress test their plans. If you've never run a Monte Carlo simulation, or you ran 1 year ago and things have changed, let's take a look together. No charge for the first conversation. Because I'd rather tell you, not yet, now, than see you run out of money at 78. That's not fear-mongering. That's friendship. You spent decades building systems that never failed. Now build a retirement system that can survive failure. Run the simulation. Question the assumptions. And when you're ready, retire with eyes wide open, not on hope. I'm Jayant. I'll see you in the next one.